is, here we go. Got it. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon, everybody. I know that I'm on the East Coast and it's a little bit after 4 p.m. I'm going to have my guest tell you what time where she is after I get our introductions in. So you've joined Journeys with Jones Harwell. Today, our guest is Yvonne Dam with Amaze-Yourself. She is extraordinaire, you guys. When I read her profile, the things that she has done, started out as a tax attorney, went from being an attorney to finance, to HR, to sales, to performance and change management, a certified life coach. She has lived in several countries, award-winning, great platform. And she's going to talk to us a little bit today about how to amaze yourself. So one of the things that I liked is that she has 3 words: freedom, respect, and positivity. Everybody, welcome Yvonne to the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Lisa, for having me. And what an introduction.
Thank you. Now tell everybody, because I was floored when you told me where you are and where you're at now. Tell them where you are and what time it is.
Okay, so I'm right now in the Netherlands, in Europe, and it is 10 p.m. So 6 hours ahead of Eastern time.
Wow. Thank you. Because at 10 p.m. normally at night, my eyelids are saying it's time to go to bed. So I appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. So tell us, you have had such an exciting journey, and you classified yourself as a workaholic.
Oh, yes.
Most of us that are entrepreneurs or work a daily 9 to 5 or 40-hour plus work week, we can identify that. But clearly there was something that I connected with, because you talked about how you had this cycle of yes, 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 to work, to friends, to all of these different things. And you took a breather and regrouped. But when you came back, your focus was that same energy. So how can we change that pattern to where we are? One of the things that you talk about is be the CEO of your life.
Well, thank you for asking, because it's, for the story, it would have been great if I could tell you I had that life-changing moment where everything radically changed. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. I like you said, sometimes I think I had 7 careers. And I started as an international tax lawyer with one of the top 3 audit firms globally, which meant basically they learned me a couple of lessons. 1, time is money. 2, always be efficient. And 3, don't waste time. And I incorporated very much into my life, into the way I worked, climbed the corporate ladder, and then I burned myself out. Now, it did change me in a way that I made myself a priority more. But even when you make yourself a priority, you can still work day and night, which I just continued to do. And there were moments in my career where I kind of, learned more about how to be more productive. Like when I worked in South Africa, I had 2 roles at the time, and I learned to cut back on all the non-essentials. So it actually gave me an amazing result by doing less and focusing more, but I kept working a lot. And then I moved to the UK, where I was living outside London City, but working in London City. And I have a daughter, and after school care, it was horrible. So I then learned even more to compress my time. So when I started my business, I was amazing in being very productive and very effective. But, and you may find this as well, if you continue to do everything, you can be very productive, but it only means that you do a whole lot extra because you keep doing everything. So there came a moment in my business entrepreneurship when I woke up and I thought, oh my God, I need to go to work. And that was such a wake-up call, because that was surely not why I started my business. I started my business to be free. So at that point in time, I decided this is not what I want. And I made the decision to change things around. And I did. And then I started to incorporate basically 3 steps. It's a framework I always work with. I became very specific in what I wanted to achieve. Now, normally you have a big goal, and I didn't want a big goal. I wanted something that I actually could see myself doing. Then I got my priorities straight, but I didn't just look at my business priorities, you know, which often happens. If you and I talk about goals, we will talk about business. But my life, I don't know about you, but my life is more about business. You know, it's about having fun. It's about visiting family like you're doing now. It's about, you know, you need to love life. So set your priorities, but include your life priorities. And then take aligned action with focus. But the critical thing is really to stop doing it all. So this was a very roundabout way to answer your question, but it basically starts with you deciding, I had enough. I don't want to work as much anymore. And I just want to do it differently.
Wow. And you know, it takes us, and I often say this, especially women. And I don't think more so men, because men kind of know how to prioritize things in their life more than women do. But we seem to learn that lesson a lot later than earlier
Yes.
in life.
True. Unfortunately, yes.
You know, and then sometimes, you know, it's to a point where then we're too afraid almost to step out and try something new, because this has been our status quo all the time. And we don't know how to really tell people no, or tell ourselves, you know what, it's okay to take, you know, what they call it here, Lord, it just escaped my mind. Everybody knows what I'm getting ready to say. A sick day, but it's not a wellness day.
A wellness day, right?
More, it's a sick day, but a health check day, you know, wellness day,
Yeah.
just to decompartmentalize, to unwind, to, you know, to give yourself that chance to breathe and say, okay, maybe, you know, this will help my perspective. And a lot of times that happens when we get too rushed, or we get something that's quite of a puzzle that we can't quite figure out sometimes.
Yes.
Do you often find that that's the case with a lot of people, or?
It is, yes. It's that feeling of overwhelm and having to do everything. It starts when you kind of feel like you lose control. And it also happens when you are focusing on everything but now. So if you feel you're getting overwhelmed because all of a sudden you realize, oh, you have to do this and then that, and then you can even worry about things that are coming up next month, because that's what happens with overwhelm, right?
Right.
The best thing you can do is to remember, I'm here right now. Sometimes you even need to literally pat yourself to say, okay, to get back in the moment, take a couple of deep breaths. That's always very good. And then ask yourself, okay, so what's the one thing I need to do right now? The one thing, what's the one most impactful thing right now that I can do? And then start doing that. And for everything else, just, you know, put it aside, make sure you get back to it. Once you've done that one thing and you have a bit more, okay, I've done the most critical thing for me right now, then take a good look at what's on your list. I can already tell you that at least 20% of what's on your list should go. Should totally not be on there. And if anybody's listening and they want me to look with them, I'm happy to do a 30-minute call with you to go over anything you have. But honestly, most of the time we worry about things that aren't critical.
That's amazing. And I'm looking here because I want to make sure that I got it up. So anybody that's following, I can ask them if they have any questions.
Yes.
And we do have somebody that shared. Thank you. Prophetess Canada. She shared our video out today to her.
Oh, that's amazing.
So excited. So we're going to get some actual other individuals that are going to get plugged in. And I'm glad because I think today our conversation, even though I get a lot of men that tune in, but I do get a lot of women that tune in. And one of the things that I'm going to touch on, a friend of mine, who her name is Sharon Jackson Bullock. And she wrote this book, a coffee table book, that's called Embracing My Sexy 60s. And the reason why she wrote it was she was in her 60s and she saw all of these phenomenal women in their 60s that either had career changes or because of some life event was starting over. And she wanted to showcase these women in all their glory. So she did it completely in color. And it's an amazing book. But what she said that resonated so much with me as I'm entering the decade of the 60s this year was that we are not our mothers or our grandmothers' 60s. So I find it in, if you don't mind sharing a little bit of your backdrop story, to go from a tax attorney to this well-renowned life coach. what was the journey? Because I'm assuming at one point in time you liked finance as
Oh, yes, I did.
because
Yes.
most people don't go into taxes or finance unless they have a love for it.
Yeah, no, I loved it. I always loved the puzzle that comes with it because it's truly, if you do the tax as well, and my specialty is international tax. And that's really a puzzle with the tax treaties and everything going on. But some call it a multi-passionate. So I have a very broad interest and I'm quite easily bored, I must be honest. And with the tax, it changes a bit every year.
Yes.
You know, most people will say it comes less, less deductions every year, but it doesn't change that much. You know, it's the same law, it's the same. So I got a bit bored. I don't, but that's what happened. So I worked at a very big consulting firm, and there's always, if you perform and you see an opportunity, you hop on the next. So I hopped on the next, and I became a broader consultant into HR. And then I actually moved to New York I did sales and business development, and I loved that as well. Did that in Europe. So it really grew. And then after my burnout, I returned. But actually, I thought, oh, you know what I really want to do is I want to travel the world. So back then, the circumstances were different, but I quit my job and I set out to travel the world. Didn't happen because I fell off a mountain and I broke my arm. But
Lord,
that was a short trip. But what I did then was like, okay, now I don't want to go back to that environment, and I joined a change implementation organization. And that was just the most amazing time ever. It was very value driven. And coaching was there really part of the culture. And I helped them to integrate culture. And that's how I got into coaching. And I just found my purpose. This is what I had been doing my whole life unknowingly. Wow. I always coached my friends, my peers. I coached executives as part of the sales and the business development. And it was just calling for me. So that's how I started my own business.
And that's how Amaze-Yourself happened. I see
yes.
15 different platforms. And I can identify because as an IT specialist, when you talk change management, you're normally talking about changing the processes.
Yes.
On with whatever service background you're in. And my service background was I programmed large phone systems. So it all, automatically did with talking with your customers to identify what it is that services wise helps run their business better. Okay, so that initial contact, that initial phone contact that they have,
Right.
is it that one-on-one, person to person? Is it that interactive voice that, you're giving them prompts to go through before they get to an individual? And I learned a lot about that, that there's some defaults, to that, because the older generation, and I find as older as you get, you need still that one-on-one interaction with individuals to develop those relationships, because relationships drives your business.
Yes. Yes.
So tell us a little bit more about Amaze-Yourself. You have 15 platforms that you offer. And I noticed one of them was the focus call, which was
Yes.
really good. And how does that work?
Well, I have a group coaching that is for a small group of people. I really like it small. I'm not a big fan of big. I like intimate, like you said. One-on-one is, I do one-on-one and I do VIP coaching. And if I may, I have actually something coming up that I am really excited about.
Please broadcast.
Yes.
Hear it.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I understand the struggle of wanting to achieve more and not having all the time in the world. Like we discussed, I've been through it, but it took me 15 years to get here. And I don't want anybody to take 15 years to learn what I've learned. So
Wow.
I'm hosting a boot camp, and it's starting next week on January the 25th. Everybody's invited. It's a free boot camp. And it's called, I won't curse, but it's called Get Stuff Done.
Get stuff done.
Yeah, well, it's actually called Get Shit Done, but I'm not sure what I can say.
That's okay.
Okay.
I can relate.
Okay. The reason why I called it that is that what you say when you're like, oh, and I still need to do that, Well, and it's basically taking you through my framework that made all the difference from going to be very productive to be very effective in what I did. And I'm just very excited for it. So if you're eager to make your goals work for you, if you're eager to grow your business in less time, come and check it out, join. It's just going to be amazing.
I'm going to make sure that we have all the links. I'm going to post them to my page in the comments afterwards, so people will make sure that they tune in.
Yes.
I love this. And I know we chatted for a couple of minutes before we came on, and I said that I was just so excited and so humbled, because it took me actually walking away from a job with an intent that I'm just going to take a little time off.
Yes.
And going back to work. And the pandemic said, well, there's a whole bunch of other people like you that got to go back to work. And I'm a big believer in my faith.
Mm-hmm.
I think God did it this way for me because he took me totally out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
Had I planned this, I would not have planned to do it this way.
Yes.
And so it has been an amazing ride. And I think for me, it was, you forgot this young creative girl that you were, and you stepped out here and you planned out everything almost, and, I threw a marriage at you, and I threw some kids at you to learn, to be a little flexible, but you still didn't quite get the lesson. Still married, you still got the kids, but that creativity and that need to just go with the flow, he was like, I think you still need to learn that lesson.
Yeah, well, I love it. And I think you're very right. You get the lessons that apparently you need to learn. But we are so conditioned to have a plan, to expect the next and to work with what you can expect. That sometimes when life throws you a curveball, what to do with it. And in a smaller variation, it almost happens daily to us. Because how often isn't it that we have this amazing plan for the entire day, and today I'm going to be, I'm smashing it, I'm ready for it, I feel so good. And then something happens, one of your kids gets sick, or a client has an emergency, and you need to turn everything around. And I know that you can deal with this if you structure your business well, and if you don't plan too much. But it takes a bit of practice. It takes a bit of time. But if you do it well, it just becomes so much fun. And that's my main goal, to bring back that fun, that ease, to let you fall in love again with why you started this in the first place. Because, life is good. So you need to feel that every day when you work as well, in my view.
Yes. Now, I see that you've also authored 2 books, How to Improve Your Work-Life Balance. And
Yes.
we kind of talked a little bit about that. But the other one, I think, is tailored more to the free boot camp that you're giving next week, which is to do more in less time.
Yes, that's actually for everybody who wants that. It's a free book, so you can download it, because it's one of the techniques I use to really... Most of my clients gain around 5 hours, or they free up 5 hours per week when they use a technique. It's a great tool. It's especially when you have to do repetitive tasks. It really, really works well. So check it out, because it's there for you. It's free, available. And it does indeed go into the bootcamp that I'm hosting next week. And I have to laugh, because I wrote a new book last year. And I sorry, but I'm getting a bit nervous about it, because this feels way more official. This book has an ISBN number, so it's really registered and being,
Okay, well, we're going to share a little bit of my background as to how I got to where I got it when you finish your story.
Okay, I would love to hear that. Yes. Well, I got approached actually by someone whether I wanted to write a book. And at first I thought, I'm not sure. And then I said, sure, I'll do it. And I wrote a book, and it's called Fast Forward Focus for Instant Results. It's coming out next month. And it basically is my story. So it's very... I think somebody asked me, so you're basically teaching time management, but time management is boring, and it never sticks. How come it sticks with you? It's because my stories are personal. I'm human, I procrastinated on writing a book against procrastination. It's in my book. I'm honest. I've heard all the excuses. I've told them all myself. So I'm not a very... I love life, and you need to do what works well for you, because I've taken 15 years. I have so many tools can hand to you, so you can pick what works for you. Yeah. And that's in the book as well. It's very real, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. It does make sense, because in 2019, 5 months before I made the decision to walk away from my job,
yeah,
I published my first book. I sat on that book since high school.
Ooh.
Since high school. This character stayed with me since high school. And I always told people that I went a roundabout way to get to where I'm at today. My brothers, straight out of high school, went to college. I came straight out of high school, and I kind of zigged and zagged, but I always worked. And I always said that I knew at least one thing that was on my bucket list, or 2 things: that I would write the book, and that I would graduate from college. journalism was my love. And the plan was to go to college to be a journalist or to be on the radio.
Yeah.
Well, I moved the middle of my senior year and the focus got off. I went to work. I moved to Washington, D.C. I went to school for a little bit and stopped. Went to school for a little bit and stopped. Went and got a radio license, but never got on the air because I was too scared. Who would want to hear me? That was my frame of mind. You know, even though people said sometimes I can be outgoing, but that fear of the thing that touches you the most,
Yes.
most precious to you,
Yeah.
really don't want to share with the world because you don't want to get that rejection, right?
Yeah.
I was like, who would really want to hear me, right? So when I finally decided to go back to school in my 40s, and I did, I said, I got to show my son that I can stick to a goal, right? Stick to this goal and do it. And so I said, I've been working IT all this time. Let me do IT. And every time I got to a coding class, I was making myself physically ill because I couldn't get it. And it was just like, you know what? Let me go back to what I love, journalism. So I did. I graduated in journalism. And before I finished, one of the professors said to me, about teaching, think about writing. See how the thread got resewn, right? So I said, okay, maybe teaching, and I could do that as a second career. So I went and got my master's, right, in early childhood education.
Yeah.
And I tutor young kids on literacy and reading. And so I still had this book. I have a girlfriend who's a best-selling novelist. Gave it to her. You write really well. You write really good. Finish the book, give it back to me. I'll publish it for you. Because she self-published. And I did. And she gave me the best advice now. But looking at it 2.5 years ago, I was like, are you serious? She was like, you have all the tools to do this yourself. And people have been telling me, you have a way of sitting down with individuals and making them comfortable enough to share their journeys with you. Why don't you have some platform out here where you're talking to people? No, I can just talk to you one-on-one, just like this. I don't need a camera. I don't need anything else. I can just talk, right? But it all came together after publishing that book.
I love it.
As someone seeing me do it had the courage to say, can you help me tell my story? And I had the courage back to say, yes, I can. And so now here I am 2 years later, publisher extraordinaire, podcast host, you know, so when I get a chance to write, I write, but I'm helping people tell their stories, fiction, nonfiction, poems, quotes, and it has been an amazing ride.
I love it.
Required me to really, like you said, come really out of the comfort zone and finally start doing things that made me happy.
Yes.
Spending the time and the energy and saying no to things that no longer served its purpose for me.
Yeah. And it feels amazing, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Even though sometimes I look and I say, seriously, do I really do? But then, you know, there are days, more days that it has been just worth it. Totally, totally worth it. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Love that you talked to me today. Let's give some people some information as to where they can find you on social media, how they can sign up for the boot camp next week on the 25th.
Yeah. Sure. So if you want to connect, I'm very open to connecting because I love to chat. Best way to go, I think, is my website. That's the easiest, which is Amaze-Yourself, and there's a hyphen between amaze and yourself.com. And there's a section with programs, and the first step under the programs is called Bootcamp. And that's where you find all the information for next week's free training. So it's amaze-yourself.com/bootcamp. Find me on Facebook, Yvonne Dam. Find me on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, also Yvonne Dam. And on Instagram, you have to search for, I think if you type in Yvonne Dam, you will get me, but otherwise it's Amaze-Yourself coaching. Instagram is a bit more complex with the company name. Yeah. But if I'm sure that if you type in my name, you'll get me.
We'll find you.
Yeah, and it's, of course, it's all on my website. If you go there, you find all the links, and hit me up to chat, because honestly, I know that you can save 20% of your time. I would love to show you where.
And I know you can. And so is the boot camp, the hours on Eastern Standard Time?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's 12 p.m. Eastern, so it's during lunch. And it's not going to be longer than 15 to 30 minutes, because I know everybody doesn't have time. That's why I set it up that way. If you can't make it live, because some people simply can't, there's always a replay. You get lifelong access to it. It's going to be in a closed off community. So any questions you may have, this is really your time. So any questions you may have around getting goals, productivity, efficiency, basically anything, just join. Ask me, because I'm going to be all the time there asking and answering all the questions you may have. So yeah, it's really, I can't tell you how excited I am for it.
I'm going to set it up where I'm going to be on.
Nice. I love that.
I'm definitely going to be on. So I have one personal question for you before we close.
Yes.
What has been one of the most amazing places that you have visited?
Oh, can I only choose one?
Well, if you got a couple.
Oh, well, yeah, when I've lived in South Africa, and that in itself that was amazing. And then I always had this dream of, it's gonna sound funny, but I had this dream of driving with a rooftop tent. I didn't even know how it looked like. I just had this dream about rooftop tents. So anyway, when we lived in South Africa, we made a trip to Namibia, and we booked a Jeep that actually had, I didn't even know that existed, but basically you have like a tent which is flappable. So it's flat when you drive, and then when you park, you can turn it into a tent. The most amazing thing ever. And then that country, and I must be honest, I'm not big on camping, because I don't like the toilet roll paper thingy, but we had the best experience ever. It was stunning. So that's definitely one of the most amazing places. And the other thing was, we lived in Durban, which is underneath Johannesburg, and we took a trip where we drove all the way up to South Africa, all the way through Botswana to the I can't say it. The Vic Falls in Zambia. And that trip, we were the three of us, because my husband, myself, and my daughter, she was 4 back then. And we drove back through Zimbabwe. So many beautiful places, but I'm gonna stop now, because there are many more. So
I imagine it is. I have a girlfriend and a good friend of mine who's from Nigeria, and he's always saying, please, when are you guys going to come visit? And they go home. He goes home. He and his wife go home every year.
Yes.
On them almost 30 years. And every year they go home during the holidays and spend about a month. And now, because the internet is a little bit better, we can see some amazing pictures of the countryside, and they always are sharing, the city, Lagos, and the countryside, and it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So one of the places definitely on my bucket list to make happen.
It's beautiful.
Life changes. I should have no excuse to make some of these trips happen.
I would definitely recommend it. And they say once you visit Africa as continents, it gets into your soul. It's true. I remember my first time, I thought, oh, that's nonsense, but it's It's stunning. It's stunning. The country is stunning. The people are stunning. The animals are amazing. It's just, yeah, go there, put it on your list, but make it happen. Make it, somebody told me that's something I really like. Don't make a bucket list, because that's when you kick the bucket, but make it a life list and make it happen.
I like that change. I have a friend of mine, she always would say, never say that you're busy, always say that you are productive.
Yes.
New word now. Never say bucket list, life.
It's a good one, isn't it? I like it.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. I made a life list this year, and I already crossed off 2 things. So I'm very happy.
Well, good. Well, good. And lastly, any advice that you would give somebody that is just at that point that they're like, don't know which way to turn?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, first of all, take a deep breath. Okay. That's always going to help. Then it's not as bad as it looks, but right now it looks daunting. I can totally relate. What I recommend when it feels as if it's too much, ask yourself right there and then, but then continuously ask yourself every morning, what are my 3 main, most impactful actions of the day? And be honest with yourself. So don't write, and I'm exaggerating on purpose here, but don't write down, I'm gonna redo my entire website. That's not a honest
Realistic
action,
goal
right?
for the day.
No. Say, for example, I'm gonna revamp my about page. That's something you might be able to do. But 3 most impactful actions of the day. The best way to do this is to ask yourself, what's my goal? If I want to have more clients, okay, what 3 most impactful actions right now can I take that are going to deliver me more clients? Okay, so 3 most impactful. Start your day, if at all possible, with those 3. Because the effect it will happen on you is tremendously. First of all, you will feel more productive because you've done them. Second of all, if you keep doing this on a daily basis, you will see the progress you are making. And if you're choosing the right impactful actions, you will actually get the results. And because you get this all in motion, the overwhelm will diminish and you will actually feel better. And because you feel better, you will be able to tackle on more during the day. So that's my advice.
Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here. Yvonne Dam, Amaze-Yourself. Check out her website, amaze-yourself.com. She has a free boot camp next week on the 25th, noon Eastern Standard Time. Go and register. Amaze-yourself.com. Click programs. Under programs, you will see boot camp. She has 15 plus programs out there available. So if you are in business, if you're in education, finance, life coach, you're looking for inspiration, you're looking for networking and partnership, please check out this young lady. Amazing, amazing. Been around the world. I can't say that. There are very few people that I can say who have been around the world. And I know one who jumped on, Dr. Larry White. Thank you for joining us and letting us, spending some time with us this afternoon. And he went around as a soldier. So
nice. Wow. Yes, it's impressive.
But yes. to be able to travel around the world and see different countries, if you have that in your soul, take that first trip. And that is on my life list for some places that I still want to visit. And took me to age 57 to get started, but as long as you're breathing, you can still do it.
Precisely that. I love it.
Yes. Thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. This concludes our segment of Journeys with Jones Harwell, featuring Yvonne Dam, extraordinaire business entrepreneur, life coach, former tax attorney, HR specialist, all these things. The founder of Amaze-Yourself.com. check the website out, go to programs. I expect to see you guys in the boot camp next week, the 25th, 12 noon Eastern Standard Time. Thanks for joining us. Thank you, Yvonne, so much for taking.
Thank you so much.
And I know it's evening where you are, so thank you so much.
Thank you.
This is our show, everybody.